Yeah, it's Mountain Peeps, TopLegend787 here to talk about Pokemon again, but this time I am returning to the Pokebilities metagame. I'm on the Random Other Metas server right now because, well, Pokebilities isn't on the official Smogon server anymore, and the Gen 8 version isn't on the Random Other Metas server, but I will be talking about it and adding some Pokemon in here as if it was the Gen 8 Pokebilities meta. So let's say, like, if I want to add Dragapult to talk about it, I will just add Dragapult because I'm never actually going to use the team. But, yeah, today, I'm going to be talking about Teleport and Pokebilities because its usage is very similar, but at the same time, pretty different from, or when compared to, normal Gen 8 OU. And the reason for that is there's a bit more of a variety of Pokemon that get benefits from Teleport. Now, when we take a look at the list of teleporters, not much has really changed. Like, still the only viable teleporters that you have a legitimate chance of seeing are the Slow Twins, maybe Xatu possibly, Arcanine, Porygon 2, I already said the Slow Twins, I believe. Maybe Starmie if someone really wants to run a slow set for some reason. But Flip Turn is still going to be better, I believe. Magneton, if people want to run a defensive Magneton. And Magnezone prefers Volt Switch, but I think some sets carry Volt Port, as I call it, which is the combination of both Volt Switch and Teleport. Blissey, it's not too common in the Pokebilities meta, but yeah. And then Magnezone and Clef. So, as you see, the only really common teleport users in the metagame, because Porygon Z is banned, are Clefable, Magneton and Magnezone, the Slow Twins, Arcanine, and Porygon 2. And maybe on extremely rare cases, Xatu. So, that's nice. But, what does Teleport do in the metagame? So, let's just say I have a Clefable. Now, there's something that people call wish passing, and with the changes to Teleport switching you out at the end of the turn, being a negative priority move, Wish, you won't have to risk a Pokemon taking damage in order to receive the risk, because you can just teleport out into the Pokemon, and since Teleport has negative priority, sure, Clefable will have to take extra damage, but the Pokemon that you're trying to pass the wish to will not have to take any damage other than hazards, and even then, that can be negated with heavy-duty boots. So, that gives Clefable a lot of extra utility. Now, sure, you will likely run Protect. Some people like to run Double Recovery with Soft Boiled. Others like Knockoff, Stealth Rock, Thunder Wave, their Moon Blast, just the whole thing. And Clefable was already amazing, but Teleport just makes it that much more. Teleport just increases its utility just through that one singular move that much. So, when it comes to the Teleport Pokemon, the only one that can really be used offensively is going to be Porygon 2. because Porygon Z was banned, Porygon 2 is its best replacement, even though it's still not all that great for offense, because with the defenses and the Eviolite, which you're going to be guaranteed to run, like, it has trace, download, analytic, but most of the time you're either going to be using it on mainly hard stall Pokebilities teams or Trick Room teams, because it can set up Trick Room and then teleport out, or it can just teleport out into a teammate regularly. Then, not to mention, its analytic allows it to have use outside of the Trick Room when you don't outspeed. It has its own natural recovery, it has its own status, and it does solid damage with an okay special attack stat. So Porygon 2 is the only teleporter that you're going to get realistic offensive use out of, because the Slow Twins, like, the only true offensive quote-unquote use that I'd see is not trying to do damage with moves, but rather trying to force certain situations. Like, you can try to scare an opponent into switching out by threatening a Scald, but then teleport. Like, or if they think you're going to teleport, so they switch into a Pokemon they think you're going to, they think can trap you or something. Oh wait, trapping is banned anyway. But let's say if they think you're going to use teleport and they think they want to get the KO on you, so they use a Night Slash or something, and then you end up going for a Scald and burning them after the turn. That is one of the reasons why the Slow Twins are so popular in OU normally with teleport, because they can force different situations. With Future Sight, they force switching out in a certain Pokemon to take less damage from this Future Sight, or be completely immune to it in the case of Dark types. And Scald forces switches sometimes based on the threat of a burn, despite the relatively meager attacking stats that the Slow Twins have when compared to other Pokemon. And then you have Arcanine. So, yeah. Arcanine, not really going to be used offensively too much. Like, of course, you're going to see the normal boot set with Intimidate, Flash Fire, and Justified. And the most likely moveset you're going to see is either Will-O-Wisp or Toxic, Morning Sun, Flamethrower, and Teleport. So this is going to be your most common moveset with these EVs, and yeah, as you can see, it doesn't really provide too much offense, because offense isn't really what you're going for with Arcanine. The idea of using Arcanine in Pokebilities is to have a useful immunity on a Pokemon that powers up its not so great special attacking stat, because you're not trying to use it as an attacker, while also being able to weaken other Pokemon through things like Intimidate and Will-O-Wisp, slowly just weakening them to where they can do nothing to your team, or putting them on a timer with Toxic, while being able to heal yourself and switch out when you need to. So, I've covered the teleport users. What about the teleport beneficiaries? Now, the main teleport beneficiaries are going to be the Guts Pokemon. Now, actually, I have to check this real quick. But Guts Pokemon, like, so many Guts Pokemon were taken out of Pokebilities. but a lot of them do still do fairly good in the metagame. Like, let me just fill up the team here. Then you have the Guts users that you're never realistically going to use, being Flareon, Throw, and Luxray, because Flareon's way too slow, same as Luxray and Throw, but Throw, I guess, has okay defenses, but no stab options other than Superpower, which I guess it's okay. But even with its solid defenses, its attack stat with Guts still isn't enough because it just doesn't have the move pool or typing to support it. Now, Flareon and Luxray could be really interesting, but Luxray gets fucked over by Rivalry, its awful bulk and awful speed, and Flareon, it has no physical bulk and terrible speed, even though it does get an extra immunity. So the only realistic options are Conkeldurr, Heracross, Obstagoon, and Machamp, and you're most likely not going to use Machamp either unless you are specifically wanting something that No Guard provides over Conkeldurr's extra abilities. But the main reason why Teleport benefits these Guts Pokemon so much is because when they aren't activated, it gives them a free activation from the Toxic or Flame Orb without them needing to use Protect. And since so many run some sort of protecting move, it allows them to free up their move slots for other moves. Like, let's say Obstagoon, of course it will have a Flame Orb, but instead of needing to run Obstruct, you can have things like Switcheroo, Parting Shot, Taunt, and then Facade or Knockoff. And most of the time you probably aren't going to carry Taunt. So, yeah, this could be a really interesting set. You could replace Switcheroo with Close Combat, but personally I like crippling some Pokemon. So that gives a lot of leeway because Obstagoon doesn't need to switch in with its solid bulk, but that means it gets to use its bulk later in the game to input it to full use, as it can use it to generate momentum while weakening the opposing team with Parting Shot. It can use it for rather offensive plays, with Knockoff. It can cripple opposing Pokemon by using Switcheroo. So Obstagoon definitely is a huge beneficiary of this, and it's definitely one of the more varied Pokemon because it's not just I hit harder and I have utility at the same time, whereas the rest of these are all just hitting harder. Because, let's be honest, you're never going to run Defog on Conkeldurr. Like, speaking of Conkeldurr, I know I made a video on Conkeldurr a few months back. I still stand by my opinion that Conk should be suspect tested because its combination of abilities is insane, but what pushed it to that point for me was the fact that Teleport was now viable and has the new effect. Now, what are my stances on that now? I actually believe it even stronger than I once did, because there was one very specific move I didn't look at. Close Combat. Even after Drain Punch being raised to 90 power, Close Combat still has 30 more power, and it lets you break through even more that Drain Punch wouldn't let you break through, while still having these crazy abilities, one all in tandem. And the variation of sets where you don't even need to run Flame Orb because there are so many fast status Pokemon in the tier that you can just use a slow Pokemon that teleports like or actually no, because you want to be able to absorb the status, but you could use a fast Pokemon with some sort of momentum move. Like, you could U-turn out of something with Zapdos into Conkeldurr absorb a Will-O-Wisp with a Life Orb, because Sheer Force, all moves that have secondary effects like Poison Jab, Rock Slide, Thunder Punch, you're not going to take any recoil from that because of Sheer Force. And then your punching moves get powered up even more due to Iron Fist, which just makes it so much more threatening and pushes it even further over the edge than it once was. And then, I'd say probably, other than Obstagoon, the most interesting is Heracross. Because you have the Flame Orb. Okay. You have Moxie, which makes it even more threatening if you're able to start something. You can run either Slack Berry or Choice Scarf if you're willing to just try to switch in on a status move, and risk it not being a status move. You have things like, you have Swarm, so you're gradually weakening yourself and getting yourself closer into that Swarm range, and Hazards are likely doing the same thing because they're no less prevalent in Pokebilities, so you're getting closer to Swarm, while at the same time possibly building up a snowball effect sweep with Moxie and posing a huge threat with your even higher attack stat than what it was before at base 125 with Guts, meaning that your moves will do ridiculous damage, and you could even do more depending on how weak you're able to get yourself without having to risk your Pokemon dying. And because of this, that makes Guts Pokemon easily the best beneficiaries in the Gen 8 metagame of Pokebilities, but I'm not going to say at all that they're the only beneficiaries. For instance, let's take a look at Hippowdon. Well, it's extremely bulky. It can take hits for days. So oftentimes you don't even need to teleport into it, you can just switch into it. But because of its Sand Force ability, it allows Hippowdon to be much more offensive, while at the same time retaining its absolutely insane bulk. Because you can run the normal stall set with just Earthquake as your only attacking move, and you'll still do a ton of damage due to setting up your own sand and having Sand Force. You could try to raise that with things such as Life Orb, even though I definitely wouldn't suggest Life Orb for Hippowdon. But the simple fact is that it allows a defensive Pokemon to play much more offensively, and that is and a Pokemon allowing itself to be more offensive, a lot of it does come from the fact that you are able to use Teleport to get into that Pokemon sometimes. Then you have certain Pokemon, There are other offensive threats, of course. Like, even some Pokemon that don't get too much of a usage boost from Pokebilities, like Melmetal, for example. You don't want to just have to take a special hit as soon as you come in, and it can pose an extremely offensive threat, even though it's extremely slow, and its slowness will normally force it to take 2 hits if you're the one coming in. But you'll only have to take 1 hit if you teleport out into it, which is a huge boon to Melmetal. Now, of course, Melmetal isn't perfect. Teleport isn't perfect. Of course, they both have flaws. But the point that I'm getting at here is that Teleport allows much more offensive play if used properly, and allows for some huge players to start ripping through. Now, am I going to say Teleport's overpowered? No. At the end of the day, I do not believe Teleport is overpowered. I believe Teleport to be perfectly balanced but it is really good. The only issue that I have with Teleport is that the Pokemon that get Teleport themselves aren't the Pokemon that get such a huge boost from it, but rather the Pokemon that would otherwise be really risky, but also really rewarding if you're able to pull off their usage properly, be significantly less risky and therefore run through the metagame with little to no troubles. Which I would think that would be understandable. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching. This has been Typhlosion787, and I'm out of the house. Bye!